Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Yum, yum. I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. Let's do it.
Let's do it. And me, Justice for Osira, Paul to touch it. I went there. Yeah, I went there. No one defends Orions. That's me. I'm the defender of Orions.
The great defender of Orions, Paul Satachet. Tonight we are going to talk about some of our favorite moments from Star Trek Discovery. Let us know. Tell us what some of your faves were. Clyde, how can people interact with us tonight in the chat if they want to tell us about their favorite moments?
Braille. Just, send us something in Braille and we'll put our hands over it and figure out what it is. No, if you're watching us live in the chat, then by all means, all we ask is that you type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we will take a look at your musings, your thought, your ramblings, and we may even read them live on the show. And in a moment, you can type capital HF, capital A, or capital H, capital F, capital HF, and give us your overall thoughts if you want to let us know what some of your favorite moments from the season were. And if by chance you're one of our patrons, you can also leave us a message in the messages from the menagerie. There are lots of ways that you can interact with us live, kind of on the show.
Indeed. And Paul, let's say people maybe are trying to get their friends into Star Trek and want to share this show with said friends. How can they do that?
First of all, friends do not get friends into Star Trek. Let's get that out of the way. But if
enemies, you're trying to ruin their life and you want to get them down.
That's right. If you want to steal, basically hundreds of hours of their lives from them, you just have them just throw it away, watching old Star Trek, new Star Trek, Star Trek Yet to Be, and then perhaps we are the gateway, and perhaps you should subscribe to our podcast at Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you want to hurt them even more, maybe you can suggest to them to be a Patreon member of ours for just $2 per episode. Patreon.com/StarTrekPod. Drain their time, drain their money. That is the Klingon way.
Yes. Ferengi Klingon, I feel like it's a nice combo of both. It's really an alliance of tactics.
Imagine a Ferengi Klingon alliance. Wouldn't that be...
Just chef's kiss all the way around. I'm ready for that. Yes, and as I'm sure plenty of people are aware, if you are a Star Trek fan, Star Trek Prodigy, they have finally announced will be coming to Netflix on July 1st. Very exciting. They are, of course, dropping all of the episodes at once. And as much as I would enjoy trying to fit all of that into a singular pod, I feel like we should stretch it out because Star Trek Prodigy deserves that attention. So I think our plan for the show is we'll talk about 2 Prodigy episodes per podcast episode. That should hopefully give us plenty to chat about and to explore and love about that show and help us stretch out our watch time. But yeah, everyone should make sure you have saved it and you're ready to watch Prodigy over on Netflix. Very exciting. Are y'all excited for Prodigy? Don't jump in all at once. Wow.
Wait. Yes.
I'm going to edit that because wow.
I do appreciate Prodigy.
Yeah, I'm excited. Voyager, Janeway, what are you guys?
Dow.
Oh, Janeway is your favorite captain. I get it.
Murph. We get to go back to Murph.
Murph is low key amazing.
No, I enjoy Prodigy. I think it's fun. I think what I didn't enjoy was waiting for Prodigy.
It has been a long time.
Yeah. So, but
yes.
I think we're gonna see some.
I think Keenan speaks for us all. Excited for Prodigy. Not thrilled with dumping all 20 episodes at once. It's it's gonna be a lot, but I'm excited to jump in. Okay, I think it is time for some messages from the menagerie, which I'm going to call for this week are hot frakes, if you will. Let's see, what do I want to pick? This one. Hot frakes! Just a classic deep V hot frake. Classic Deep V. Okay. Messages from the Menage. We've got Kuhn who says, my favorite disco moment was Michael learning about Spock's future, unifying the Vulcans and the Romulans. It's a great payoff for fans of disco, TOS, and TNG. Watching Spock's speech from unification, that moment feels earned after seeing Michael and Spock reconcile in season 2. We've got a lot of Spock Michael love. Paul, do you want to read Karen's?
Sure. Karen says, my absolute favorite moment is Michael and Spock in the gym. I felt like we learned a ton about each of these characters in 1 minute. It was also a wonderful example of how to have a difficult talk and how each party would be open. To the end, this scene stands out to me above many wonderful moments.
Indeedably. Okay. So the way I thought we would do this this evening is we would each start with our number 5, then we'll each do our number 4, each do our 3, 2, and then 1. And if someone has something on their list that overlaps, we can just talk about it at the same time the first time it is brought up. Does that make sense to everybody?
I think that's totally fine. Although, to be fair, I don't pay attention. So I just picked my top moments or thing in each season. I apologize.
That's fine.
That
also works.
It should. Like,
Clyde,
I think you're muted, Clyde, basically, because you're cussing me out.
No, I was actually like, wow. I actually like what you did there. It's just I didn't quite rank them. I picked them, but I didn't rank them. So
I was going to say a lot of mine aren't in any particular order, and I definitely have some honorable mentions.
Clyde, would you say this is a failure of leadership?
Absolutely not. Because if Myrriah brought us structure and left her own devices, this would have been a complete disaster. So no, I would not say.
I'm not trying to lead a mutiny. I'm just saying. I'm just asking. I'm just asking questions. That's all I am.
I literally was thinking,
is this what?
Oh, did she try to cut me out? But then she cut herself out.
No idea what just happened.
No, I said, is this when you tell me I've been ousted and I go bye bye?
But there we go.
No, come back into the show. Stop doing that. I was literally thinking when you started explaining, I was like, man, if not for Myrriah, this thing would be all over the place. like she came in with structure. Like we're gonna have a good conversation.
She's like the Borg. She brings order to chaos. Good job.
I am the queen of the collective. Welcome.
Way to go, Borg girl.
Borg queen Myrriah. Okay. I will kick us off with my number 5 because I figure in time for Pride Month, I had to choose a thing that meant so much to so many of us, and that was the toothbrushing scene with Stamets and Culber. It was just such a classic. It reminded me of the toothbrushing scene from Bring It On. There's just I feel like a trope of romance movies to have the toothbrushing chemistry moment, and to see that with a queer couple in Star Trek, it made me very, very happy. So that is the first memorable moment I wanted to bring up. What did y'all think of that particular scene, or did you also have that somewhere on your list?
I did not have that in my list.
No.
I see. Yeah. Happy Pride. Allies. I see you.
hey. I didn't get my Asian Pride Venmo
Listen,
last month. So
Myrriah, I'm be honest with you. I respect what you've done. I have to disagree with you with the moment. If we are representing Pride Month, there are a number of other.
Most of my list is gay, so we'll get there.
'Cause I can't remember their name, but they were the pirate captain.
Yeah,
that's from Strange New Worlds.
Oh, Strange New Worlds. Okay,
but good try.
Sorry.
No, Captain Angel. You mean
Captain
yes?
Angel, yes. Captain Angel was very good. Clyde, what'd you get? What's your number 5?
My number 5. There are a few, because I didn't rank them. I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna just deviate. Some of mine are more thematic than an actual scene.
Oh yeah, mine go off the rails eventually. We're starting with a small moment and then I go wild, so don't worry about it. I started my own rules and then I quickly broke them all.
Then that makes me feel right at home. So I'll say Action Saru, and the development of Action Saru is my number 5. because it really, like, that metamorphosis and that transition. So if I had to put it down to a scene, it's when Saru didn't go through with the Vahai and he transformed into Action Saru, because it honestly made me like him a lot more. And he added this, we always talk about the fact that they don't really have a security figure on Discovery. It put him into this more commanding kind of like enforcer kind of role, and I dug it because I just dug it. So yeah, for number 5 for me, it's Action Saru.
Paul?
For me, it is basically Space Whale with a stomach ache. The time loop episode in season 1.
Oh, the Harry Mudd episode?
That's right. But like, hey, look at the space whale. It's those are and so like
I'm gonna throw up Harry Mudd.
That's right. So there's something really funny about having a space whale in a shuttle bay where you go like, oh, you know what? I haven't seen this in Trek before.
Yeah. We have transported a whale in a shuttle bay before, the one with the whales.
But that's a Klingon
famously.
ship. Come on.
That's
come on.
true. That's true. All right.
That was actually my number 4.
Space whale?
Harry Mudd in particular. So less whale and more just Harry Mudd, Ryan Wilson.
Yep.
Rainn Wilson, and just loving that cheeky dynamic on the show.
I mean, I think that's probably my favorite episode of season 1, just because it's so it has the Michael and what's that guy's name? I can't remember his name. People really like him a lot.
Ash Tyler.
Man, I was getting really close to removing Paul from the chat.
Yeah. And as far as relationships, like when with that relationship in particular, that's where I go like, oh, I hope they get together. Nowhere else in,
that was a good chemistry episode for them.
Yeah, I was going like, oh, this is like the episode is just perfect season 1. And I was going like, oh, this is exactly what the show can and should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like the tone of that episode really came through in this final season in many ways, where it had that kind of like balance of humor and some more kind of singular episodic episodes. But all right, my number 4 is the scene where
wait.
4
transitions
is where Mira Georgiou says, "In my world, you are pansexual." To Stamets, initiating the idea of a threesome with Stamets and Culber. And then this really just leads me to say all of Georgiou is my number 4. Anything and all things Georgiou, specifically the Terra Firma episode, when we kind of finally got to say goodbye to Georgiou. I thought they really did that character like an incredible justice with the arc. And I'm really excited for the Section 31 movie and getting to see how they continue to expand on that. But just sexual tension with Georgiou might just be like the blanketed statement for number 4, because I feel like that encompasses a lot. Also, when she tries to hook up with Linus, she gets it all the way around. So yeah,
I'm gonna have a short list here. Georgiou is my number 1. So for me, it's Burnham and Georgiou.
Yeah.
And part of how I constructed some of my lists was just this idea of like, what makes this show the show? Like there are elements that without this, the show just wouldn't quite have worked, or it worked really well when these elements were kind of inserted. And Georgiou, the show was just different when Georgiou was around, and in any scene, and the dynamic between her being ruthless but also maternal is just fascinating.
And really clear that you did not have an Asian mom.
I don't know how you could have figured that one out, but
I think Georgiou really brought like an incredible amount of like tension, but also levity in so much. And then I so often in watching like action sequences in other productions that Michelle Yeoh is not on, and I can see there's a difference when she's involved in fight choreography. I think there's just a really distinct flow and movement to the way that she brings her like both dancer background and her decades of training. decades long career. Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible to watch and so dynamic. And I really enjoyed episodes in particular where it is Michelle Yeoh and Olatunde Onsunsame working together, because I think he does a really incredible job with camera movements as a director and like moving those through and guiding the crew through fight sequences. And then when you add in just the breadth of knowledge from Michelle Yeoh, it's just like absolutely incredible to watch. And I still think about like the fight sequence from the season 1 with the Klingons, and I still think of all the fight sequences and all the Mirror Universe episodes, and like the OK Corral scene in the season once we jump to the future. You know, I think there's just like some really key highlight moments for me. And like Clyde, you probably rightfully bumped that up to number 1. I think it was like just the second thing that came to my mind was just Giorgio in all encapsulation. So I knew it had to be on my list.
You got to know, for me, I love like Westerns are cool, but I love modern Westerns. I love space Westerns. I love like Westerns that aren't obviously Westerns, right? And one of my favorite Westerns is Tombstone. And I love Doc Holliday, right? That just line, like, I'm your Huckleberry, is one of my favorite cinematic lines of all time. Michelle Yeoh, or Giorgio in Discovery, really is Doc Holliday. Like, she says whatever, she does whatever. She's quick to jump into a fight, and she's the one. And when you talk about that like saloon scene, you're like, the one person I want in this scene is Giorgio. And then she shows up kind of strolling in like Doc Holliday, and you're like, okay, we're gonna be okay.
And like Doc Holliday, Giorgio has a terminal illness.
She has to return to her timeline.
Like for me, my number 4 is the season finale of season 2, where you have super space battle, Giorgio fighting Leland, like, you know, and Burnham like going back in time. Like I feel like
it's yum yum is what did it for you, right?
Yeah, it's yum. Like it all, like, you know, I felt like that season finale, like it basically tied up all the ends of the season, and actually even Discovery, like, you know, where its place is going to be, right? You know, by the end of season 2, you go like, Discovery can't really exist in our Star Trek in this time, because like it's just too much stuff. And they go, okay, well, we'll pop in the future. And I thought that was like really, good. Oh, for those of you who really like Tig Notaro, I saw her in Larchmont walking by. She is she looks like Reno.
Wow, the actor looks like the character.
And here's what's funny: like, I was eating.
Were you like Reno?
Like, I was eating ice cream, and then she looked at me, wondering if, in the way I go, like, oh, does he recognize who I am? And I was like going like, huh, that person looks a lot like Reno.
Were you wearing a Star Trek shirt?
I was not. Yeah. But you know.
Yeah. What kind of ice cream did you get?
I was at what you call it? Not Salt and Straw, Jenny's. I was at Jenny's, and
nice.
My flavor that I normally get at Jenny's always is the rainbow sherbet, which sounds like a cop out. It sounds like it's a yogurt rainbow sherbet, and it sounds like, oh, here's the person who can't choose, but it's actually very good.
I don't think I've ever had their rainbow sherbet. I'm normally really into the brambleberry crisp. That's like my favorite.
That sounds delicious.
But the rainbow sherbet is like, you're like, oh, this is really good. This is really good, and it's a regular flavor. It doesn't rotate through. And welcome to Ice Cream Talk. This is a sister podcast to Hot Dog Talk, which I went and watched, like, you know, that part of Strange New World again.
The dry hot dog
still freaks me out, and it's the joy of which he's eating the dry hot dog. It's like, it's just not okay. It's not okay, everyone. If there's a you can't have this in Star Trek, that's near number 1.
I feel like we should have a T-shirt that just says "No dry hot dogs."
Like, I think and I don't know what to say
with like an outline of Kirk. Like,
it's just not okay. But back to like season 2 finale I think is probably the best encapsulating of what the season was.
Yeah.
So that was up for consideration, and since for me, I really did love the space battle in particular.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this list and I was like, I have to find something on my list that is like, what's the most epic space battle that has been in Discovery? And for all of the hype that was built up for the Red Angel, that was pretty dope. The ending between you got the Enterprise, you've got Discovery, you've got Spock, you've got Pike,
Control, yeah.
You've got Control, you've got this even Red Angel like spacesuit,
like the flying through the battle was intense. Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. So if I'm gonna pick what was the best space battle scene, and I'm not gonna talk about just like the shots of like Voyager, things like that. There's a bunch of those. I thought about when we saw the Enterprise in season 5, kind of the mirror versed alternate, Enterprise. Like I thought about those, but no, the end of season 2 when the Red Angel battle was pretty freaking amazing, up until the fact that she lands on the planet, like literally lands face first into the planet. Yeah.
Which is interesting because this brings me to my number 3.
Transitions.
Was Burnham arriving to the future? Just that I really felt...
We didn't plan this, guys. It's just how it my number 4, her number 3, just like, we're a team.
It's how it's worked out. But yeah, Burnham, it's like it gave us so much. One, that crash landing, that moment of joy and recognition and like relief of realizing the sacrifice you just made worked, was just like one of those moments when you're just like, oh, thank goodness we have Sonequa Martin Green as this character, because she just like truly delivers on all of that rapid succession of emotions that you need to have in that space and in that scene. It also provided us with our meet cute with Book, which sends us down like an incredible relationship storyline for the two of them. And then in that episode, I know this is like a couple, but really this episode hit so many things for me, is when we meet Officer Sahil, who's been waiting for decades to raise the Federation flag. And you get Burnham and Book there as we finally get to raise the Federation flag in the future. And I just think that there was so many moments of like, this is the Star Trek of the future in that episode. And like, especially now that we have Academy on the horizon, it truly is like, I think a big touchstone episode for me.
Yeah, I'll say that my number 3 was Burnham meets Book. So again, more thematic, but in the same line.
Are you like looking at our notes, Clyde?
No.
Are you copying us?
And my notes right here.
Yeah,
on the back of an envelope. Very official.
That's right.
Thank you. But no, like I love I was like, okay, so if I have to pick kind of, because I do love Book. It's my love of Book has gone up and down, but I was like, I do love Book. What encapsulates like Book and Burnham to me, it was how they met, and it was the year, that first year that they were together, when they're basically couriers and she's feeling free and it's like you're free from all the responsibilities, but that's who you are. Like that whole let's run around and we're going to spend the rest of the next 3 seasons talking in code that literally are never explained. Like, you remember the Alpha Centauri like situation, right? Yep, gotcha. Like they're going to just spend all the time like that. I thought that was kind of fun and cute. That was my number 3. So Burnham meets Book.
Yeah. What's your number 3, Paul?
Like, first of all, I've said too many times on this episode that my favorite episode of all of Discovery is like the Terra Firma, like 2-parter kind of thing. Like, so we've always done that, but like, and Michelle Yeoh is amazing and my favorite character, blah, 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 blah. But my favorite part of season 3, that excluded, but included, is the Guardian of the Edge of Tomorrow in that episode. Like he didn't have that much, but like, it was just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Just just to tie in like old Trek and how they chose to render it. It was just so fun. Like, you go, here's this door. Like, what do? You don't know how to use doors, do you? You go through, blow, like, and just talking in cryptic ways, but it's just so. It was good writing. It was good playful writing. It was like absurdist in a way. It reminded me like a Marguerite or some ways, like, and it's just. I thought that was such a tasteful way of doing it. I was like, oh, this is very fun. And the planet on their own, like, I'm a big fan of like ice planets and on the edge of like, freaking the galaxy, I guess. I don't know.
You like people having to be cold on set.
Yes, I don't like people being hot on set, but cold on set, like, oh yeah, die slow.
Die slow.
that might be our new T-shirt.
Die slow.
Star Trek Discovery, die slow.
No, just die slow, and then like in quotations underneath, Paul Satachi.
That's right. Like that. Like, if anyone wants to use that, please feel free, but make sure you credit me.
Yeah, I always like when there are the layers to Discovery that feel like fun tips of the hat to Star Trek of the past. And I think we get like quite a lot more of it, obviously, in shows like Strange New Worlds, and then like Lower Decks is just like running on a completely different set of cylinders as far as the reference machine that is that show. But I thought Discovery did quite well, to your point, Paul. Like, this was such a smart way to use a back reference, and it felt so it felt like justified. It felt it didn't feel like a fan service at all. It felt like, you smartly are using the lore of the place that you were existing in.
Yeah, totally. Like, it elevated it. Like, this, like, I'm always a fan of like when you can take something that I know and make it relevant, contemporary, new, and and appropriate. So I felt like I was like, oh, this is mwah, mwah, mwah.
Yeah. And I'll say with the hashtag spoiler alert for the finale, but I thought the reveal of Kovich was also kind of smartly a way to tie back to the edge of tomorrow as well, with the gatekeeper. And like I just thought it was like a cool way to kind of like tie that time traveler
sure.
kind of network together in that way. Of like, oh, of course he would be able to help like figure out where to go for this thing,
No. Love it.
That's interesting. Are we ready for number two? Mine was actually Burnham and Saru as well, but I wanted to kind of leave some space because I felt like I wanted to just talk about Saru in general, and just like the phenomenal performance of having Doug Jones in the Star Trek universe, period, is like incredible. And just the amount of performance and emotion that we get through all of that prosthetics. And to me, to your point, Clyde, earlier, the moment when Burnham thinks she's going to have to cut off his ganglia, and like, this is the death of this friend that they had finally just sort of reconciled with each other. And I thought it was such beautiful performances by both Sonequa Martin Green and Doug Jones in that scene. But to your point, the arc of Saru, and then finally ending with this like beautiful, like very mature marriage at the end. I thought the arc for Saru was really satisfying through the whole series.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think like, we there's so many couples, oddly enough, on Discovery, more than really feels like more than any other kind of show. I felt like we got a few in Voyager, but it just felt like there was a lot of couples on Discovery. I don't know what Reese was doing, but you need to, get some numbers, man. Like, go on some dates. Everybody, just saying, Reese, like, I'm not gonna get into that anyway. But my favorite couple was probably Saru.
Saru and Tarina.
Yeah, like it was such a beautiful relationship. I mean, like it's so weird to say because you know Burnham had a few relationships on the show, and you're like, but if you had to go, who's hashtag couple goals? You wouldn't have thought in the beginning of this season or series it would have been Saru.
2 weeks ago, weren't you guys like willing to punch me for saying that versus like it being Burnham and Book? Like,
listen, I'm no listen. You don't like Burnham and Book. I like Burnham and Book.
Uh-huh.
I thought that.
It's not that I don't like them. I just don't think that they have a lot of longevity.
This was why we did not agree with you, Paul. The comment of longevity. Yes, there's like everyone has those friends who are like slightly dysfunctional but passionate with each other, and you're like, I get it. They're gonna be around for a while, and obviously they made it. They made it work. But like from jump, you see Tarina.
They had to reshoot that. Then they get that pickups.
Listen,
that's not their fault, Paul. Yeah. That's not their fault. That's Paramount's fault.
Yeah.
So we just blame it on Paramount. Okay.
There you go. Fair.
It does not have to be an either or. It can be a yes and, right? And so I like both of them. I just, if you said pick one that's your favorite, it was a beautiful wedding and their relationship, and it, like the word that you used, Myrriah, was mature. It was mature in every aspect of the word, and we don't see that on TV that much. There's a lot of drama and a lot of young love. This was a mature love, and I was there for it.
Yeah, I'm all for geriatric love. Great.
I didn't say geriatric. I said mature.
But it was implied. It was
not.
Hey,
because
we don't know how long do Kelpians live now. We don't know.
I know, but Vulcans are old AF.
I'm just saying. I imagine that where it counts, that's a young love. I'm just saying.
I know Vulcans, you don't become president at at 74. Old AF.
I'm just saying.
That's why I'm into it. They love each other and they know what they want out of life, and it's going to be great.
Love it.
I also love, I don't know if everyone saw, I think we posted it on our social medias, but the actress who played Tarina, she called up a bakery in Toronto and had them make a wedding cake, like a real wedding cake for the day they shot that. So then they posted a bunch of pictures of the two of them like cutting the cake and feeding each other cake, and it was like really, really cute.
That's awesome.
That's some boss level stuff right there, right?
Yeah.
Like on screen and off screen, she's just a boss. I love it.
That's what you got when you got disposable income.
Well, she said she called the bakery and was like, so this is an odd request. I need a wedding cake, but it's not for a wedding. And like explained that she's like, oh, I'm on this TV show, and me and my person that I'm on this TV show with are getting married in the episode. And so we like explained kind of the vibes she was looking for, and essentially got to make the Tarina wedding cake of her dreams, which I thought was really cute.
Love it.
Love it.
Super amazing. What about y'all? What's sitting at that penultimate spot for you?
Clyde?
Go ahead, Paul. No, I know mine, but go ahead.
So here is something. Number 2 is Book and Burnham cheating those bad guys at whatever game that was.
The card game episode?
Yeah. Exactly. Because I felt like this is the encapsulation of what the relationship was, right? That there's, like you said, Clyde, all these inside references, and they're working together as a team, even though they are at
on opposing sides in this moment.
Exactly, they're working together because it could be worse, and you could still see that there's a tension between them, that they're not, there's a frustration that they're not on the same page. And so it really had this multi-layer thing of here's the complexity of their relationship, and but it was fun, but wrapped in a fun wrapper. I thought that was just very a very nice way to show that.
Yeah, it's a fun, like you said, it's like a nice wrapper. It's a fun way to present the tension of the relationship without it just being like a conversation about the tension in the relationship. You really got to see it rather than hear it.
And I do play a lot of casino games, so I do like a casino.
Okay.
I'm not happy about that. Anyway.
Own it. Love it. Yeah.
Noted. We gotta eventually go to Star Trek Las Vegas one year. I feel like it lands in like a weird time of year. There's like a bunch of other things happening, but I feel like I need to find out.
I've never been on a cruise. I still want to go on a Star Trek cruise.
I don't like cruises, but okay.
Like I want to see Harry Kim's like comedy set. I want to see.
I've heard the improv night is real fun with the Lower Decks crew.
Okay,
nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I don't know that I want to put a disclaimer on it, so I'm just gonna own it. It's less about the scene. It's a very specific scene. If you ask me why this scene, I'm gonna tell you it's just a feeling. Like it's a feeling, and I'm just gonna go with it. The reveal of Captain Killy was just like, whoa! I didn't expect it. It was just kind of like, oh my goodness, I'm a little smitten. Just was.
Killy's hot.
It was
Killy's hot. Like I'm all about a girl who owns her psychopathy. Totally. I'm all for it. That's why I like Georgiou. Like I might be a Terran.
I mean,
Paul, you might be.
But it's different. Like because we've seen these Mirrorverse kind of sexy episodes before. I mean, you had a lot of them in Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Enterprise, it was like someone was always in a halter top for some reason, for no really good reason.
The Orion dance scene. I keep on talking
the
about
Orion
that.
dance scene, the decontamination scene with the Paul. There's a bunch of them. Those felt like over the top, and you almost saw them coming. This came out of nowhere. Like it was like, it's like you
really gonna knock you out
and just was like, whoa. So I'm curious. I'm terribly curious about what Mary Wiseman feels about that. And I imagine the attention that she has gotten because of that. I don't know if it's one of those things that she was like, I would never do it again if I could do it all over, or it was like, it was empowering. I have no idea. I'm mildly curious. But for me as a scene, my number 2, that just like was like, whoa. So you want to call me an adolescence? That's fine. But no. I'm gonna.
I mean, I'm sure it's fun to play the mustache twirly like villain version of this character you've been playing for so long, and I think that's like something. I think that's probably why the Mirrorverse episodes feel so fun, is because all of these actors essentially get to just play as big as they want because it's appropriate for the universe that they're in.
What would the Terran universe version of us be? What's the mustache twirly version of Myrriah?
I mean, I feel like the opposite version of me would be someone who's far less motivated and far less kind.
So just like a lazy, mean person.
Yeah.
I would definitely. It would definitely be mean, and it would be no filter. I would say all the things that even I just remotely think about, and I wouldn't care what anyone thought. Like I'm kicking over chairs and desks and stuff. And
you're trying to do the Riker seat, and you just kick everything over.
Kick everything over.
Like, I think I pretty much stay the same. Oh my God.
This is why you are Terran, Paul.
Well, so one of the things on occasion I'll do is like read up on Myers-Briggs for all its pluses and minuses. But like my particular Myers-Briggs, like, like I was reading one website where it goes, here is the good version of it, and like these personalities, like Gandhi and blah, and here's the bad version, Stalin and blah. But like for my particular Myers-Briggs, like it was just like autocrats that were like Margaret Thatcher or or like just like and they like, is that good or that bad? It's just in the gray. So like I feel
Baggy
like
Thatcher. Ooh.
So it was just very interesting. Like I like definitely in the gray. Anyway,
the more you know about Paul.
Paul, Aaron, die slowly.
Okay, y'all. I think it's time to reveal. We'll do our number ones, then we'll do some honorable mentions. Are we ready? Number one. My number one is fittingly enough from Clyde's number two was the Burnham and Tilly friendship. I felt like their friendship to me was such a strong encapsulation of the transformation of the show. And I felt like they were really my core base and my like guiding North Star throughout the whole series was like seeing them go from both being kind of rejects at the beginning. Burnham obviously more so being someone who had to really crawl her way back into good graces in the Federation space. But you saw that Tilly was someone who was so unsure of herself and I think really needed the friendship with Burnham to see how that they could grow both together, but then separately and really support each other in that friendship. And I just think it was really lovely and one of my favorite things about the show.
Love it. Clyde, what you got?
So I've already said my number one, so I've got some honorable mentions. So my number one was Burnham and Giorgio. So.
Like for me, my favorite part, and this actually I feel encapsulates the journey of the show, because more than any other show of Star Trek, this is about one person.
Yeah.
And so my favorite was Burnham talking to her subconscious version of Book at the end of the library when she was about to die.
It's a solid pick.
Because like in this way, like, like I keep on talking about how Burnham like has to heal, right? Throughout this whole series. Like she goes from like, I'm guilty because I hid in the closet because my parents got killed by Klingons. And and now I started a war and blah 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 blah. Like, she's always second guessing herself. And at the end here, like, like in season 5, you see that she's really kind of gotten her bearings as a captain. If only she get one thing correct, and that's her relationship. And ultimately, like, like it took a lot. I don't want to say guts is the right word, but like oftentimes I'll criticize Discovery for going like, that's not how Star Trek of old might have done it, or blah blah blah. But like in this version here, like you've never seen a captain be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like you've seen a captain tortured, and you've seen a captain blah blah blah. But it's always like, through my strength, I'm going to overcome, and blah 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 blah.
And Discovery was like, through my vulnerability, I will hit my goals.
Yeah, and in this particular case, yeah, like absolutely. Like in this particular case, like, you go like, oh, the reason why I can be strong and a captain is because I have this damage. This damage is really causing me, and this damage is now pushing away the person that I love. And I really think that you go, Clyde. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, no, Paul. What you're saying is incredible, because I think one of the things that we mentioned early on is that Star Trek's amazing because it often is a reflection of whatever's going on in the time and period in which it exists, right? And we always look for these kind of political, societal kind of references or analogies. But really, one of the things that I kind of think about is, when you think about where we are today, words like vulnerability are prevalent in the zeitgeist, right? They are things that we talk about. We talk about trauma in a way we did not 20 years ago. And so to have a captain that is in touch with their vulnerability, a show that but
more than any other captain,
100%, like,
yes, but more than any other captain, to have a show that digs into trauma and the effects on trauma and what that might mean, even if it is the trauma of a half human, half Klingon or something, whatever Ash was.
Ash Tyler, yeah, a Klingon transformed and fused into human form.
Yes. So there's a lot of things that, even like you look at kind of some of the things that the Kelpians went through, and like there's a lot of stuff here that really speaks to a time period that we're in now and reflective of things that we talk about and things that we deal with like no other truck has. So that vulnerability or that journey of vulnerability makes a lot of sense for this show, where we didn't see any vulnerability with Picard or Janeway or not even Cisco, and he was the most emotive of all the captains.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there's a phrase in, like, I have that my therapist friends use, and they talk about how in the end you have to metabolize your damage. You have to metabolize. So it's not a matter of like making a circle around it and putting it in a closet, or or it's about like going like, here's what happened, here's who I am, and I have to accept who I am before I can become who I need to be. And in that way, like, I really feel like Discovery like
did that whole journey in a way.
Yeah, like, and it can be uncomfortable. And I think a lot of times when people like criticize Discovery, it's not as blue sky as a lot of other Star Treks. It's not, like, we're Star Trek, like, everything here's paradise, and and here's like people who need more paradise.
Right.
That's that's
like,
Star Trek.
what do you do when you're actually fighting for the utopia that's been on screen for so long, right?
Exactly. And so in this one here, like, in Discovery, you can see that, like, oh, like, life can be hard and it's still worth it. It's just an uglier journey,
Yeah.
and I think, like, in that way, it's hopeful in a way that the other Star Treks can never be, because the other Star Treks start with the assumption that you're healthy. Does it make sense? It starts at utopia.
Right. Like, there isn't much like drive for personal change and personal growth that we've ever seen. Yeah.
Ultimately, when Picard is being tortured, or anyone, the answer is like, suck it up. The cavalry's going to come. Whereas, like, you go play. I'm sorry.
To your point, you say, start at utopia, encounter at Farpoint for the Next Generation. Everybody's perfect in that
sure.
Kind of in that pilot. Like, when we meet them, everybody's fully whole. Nobody has any issues.
Yeah,
and we don't really see any issues.
Geordi's blind, but like,
is it? But he's blind with technology that makes him not blind.
Exactly.
Right. He becomes the person that can see the spectrum that nobody else can. He's
everyone is whole.
Everyone is whole.
Yeah. No. And
right?
And it's a different. Like, I don't always agree with what Discovery does. I go like, my Star Trek should be fun, but I have to always respect what it's trying to do. Like it's in its effort, it is beautiful. It might not always hit it, but like, it really tries to go like, hey, we all can be better, not just the utopia
societal
part, but internally we can all be better. We can become more than our damage. We can heal that damage. Saru heals from his damage. Burnham heals from her damage. Like, everyone, like, you even had Detmer going through her PTSD, like, everyone, like,
Lorca eventually gets thrown in the trash chute.
Stop. Yeah, thank you.
Like, yeah, my favorite, real, not relationship, like, is Georgiou, right? Georgiou goes from queen sociopath to someone who goes like, there can be a better way, and she's still a badass.
Yeah,
and she's still a badass, and but like, but she, she's changing. Whereas like Picard from season 1 to season 7 is still just Picard. And so in that way, like I look at Discovery and I go like, 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 you're like, you may stumble, but there are like
greater gains through the stumbles.
Your goals are so much loftier. So anyway,
Paul, I love what you just said there, because it's not just Burnham. When you look at this crew, just about everybody has gone through and made this growth,
except Reese.
I mean,
why are we picking on Reese tonight? He got the chair at the end.
Yes, But Reese, man, go on a date. Get some growth, bro. I mean, you got the abs. He's all handsome and stuff. I'm just saying.
I mean, IRL, he does have like a wife and beautiful child. So, you know,
I don't doubt it. But I'm saying on the show, the character just like
we're not talking about the actor. We're talking about the character.
I mean, even Tilly was about to date at the end, right?
Oh, like, I can't wait to see what they do with that if that comes back in Academy.
Tilly pulls.
Tilly pulls.
With no doubt. No doubt.
With ease. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's get into some honorable mentions.
Sure.
Honorable mentions.
I'm curious what you guys are going to say. I'm very curious what you guys
mine is just everything Jet Reno has ever said.
I have that on my list. Thank you. I can go to another one.
Yep. You know, from the full backstory of working at an archivist and being a bartender and just like every quip and, you know, the relationship with Stamets, it was all just always firing on all cylinders. 10 out of 10. I would watch an entire spinoff series of Jet Reno.
I just tried to do a quick Google search of like the best Jet Reno like line
one-liners. Yeah.
Yes. What does she call? Doesn't she call Stamets something like oh man, there's just so many. There's
good so ones. Many.
Her with the licorice. That's a good one. Mine, I'd have to go with an honorable mention. I've got a couple of them, but just Burnham and her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that Bobcat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bobcat. Great. Beautiful. Yeah.
Great. But yeah, no, Burnham and her mom, just that relationship, like we didn't see it coming. I'm also a huge fan of the actress from The Wire. Very different show for her here. But I just like that. Like they brought her back, you know. And she showed up for Burnham at a couple times that really made sense. So yeah, kind of dug it.
For me, like it is everything Osira. Like I like a good villain.
Yeah,
and Osira is like, you know, she's very complex, just like the Orion Heart. It has 6 valves. Like, you know, it flows in very many different ways, and I think Osira. Like she just got the second half of season 3. I don't think they did her justice, like killing her in the computer. What was that? That's not cool.
Good fight.
It was a fun villain though. Good fight sequence, yeah.
But you know, but here's the thing that I also like about Osira. Like she was like, look, things aren't going to work out. We should make an alliance. Like, you know, like and like, you know, and I was going like, it's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
The Vance Osira negotiation scene, yeah.
But then Vance had to be all high and mighty and go like, yeah, and you need to go to jail. And if I were Osira, I'd be pissed. Like, you know, like the world fell apart. Dilithium exploded. Everything, nothing, and people took control. Like, you know, and was it abusive? Not by Terran standards.
Of course not by Terran standards.
And she brought order. She brought order in such a way that like Orion's and what's you call it? Andromeda. It's what's the blue antenna people?
Andorians.
There we go. Andorians, like, you know, became like a significant power, like these, you know, like, and my thought process, like, you gotta put, you know, order into chaos. It's the Myrriah. Osira is the Myrriah of like the 30.
That's who I would be in the mirror universe.
I think, and so yeah, so I feel like they just made a great character and they just threw her away for basically like alien space whales, you know, for season 4.
Hey, Paul, is she your favorite villain through all 5 seasons?
In all 5 seasons, is Georgiou considered a villain?
That's
an interesting question.
That's a good question.
So assuming
I think she's more of an antagonist than a villain.
Then she is by far my favorite villain.
Speaking of like potential villains, though, I also needed to shout out Chancellor Laurel, just because like I love
Exploding
Mary
collar,
Chieffo.
yes. Say again, Chancellor Lavelle.
Yeah, Chancellor Laurel. I thought I miss the Klingons I do. I miss the Klingons, and I feel like it was fun to dive into a lot of the Klingon like history and lore when we finally kind of got Chancellor Laurel really involved in helping them stop the Klingon War, and I thought that was really cool.
Sure.
I got a couple questions for you guys, so I'll throw them out there real quick.
Throw them out there.
Yeah.
2 questions.
Those questions.
First, do you think it was a mistake doing this as a prequel? And should they have just done it as a future Trek to begin with? And 2, do you think they made the right choice by basically redesigning the Klingons in a manner that we haven't seen, or should they have just used the traditional Klingon prosthetics?
I think I'm going to answer the Klingon question first, because to me that's an easier one, which is I think in the way that humans all look very different, to me it made sense to design additional Klingons. Now, do I think it would have been smart to have mixed in some OG Klingons in that mix, just to be like, here's the diversity of Klingons, and we're updating this makeup to be more of the caliber of what we're capable of? Because in the same way that, like, I mean, in the original series, the Klingons looked like humans.
But they explain it in Enterprise.
Right. So I'm just like, I think there's that potential to, I thought they looked really cool. So ultimately I was fine with it.
I think that they went too far. And the reason why I feel like they went too far is because part of a TV show is having connection to people, and a lot of the way that's done is faces. And so, like,
the full prosthetic to you was too much.
It's just from a, like, it's like they say, like, you thought about if you could, but you didn't think about whether you should. Like,
yeah, and so, not everyone is a Doug Jones level performer underneath prosthetics.
And for all of it, for like, like, you get away with it with Doug Jones because, first of all, you're with him a lot. But the second thing is, like, Doug, is so expressive with his, his arms and legs, and like, so you see all this stuff. It's not necessarily just all in facial expressions. And I have to say, like, they probably spent a lot more time with Doug's facial prosthetics than they did with, the Klingons, because they had to make tons of those. And here's a prime character. So it's a lot of, like, I just don't think they had the budget to do what they thought they were doing. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah. To do the lighter weight prosthetics and to do it in the, like, the amount of makeup artists it would have taken to have done that. Like,
I think,
repeatedly.
like, and ultimately, like, there's a part where you look at Saru and you go, like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And then, but, like, like, when you look at Klingons, you go, oh, they look like monsters. Not to be anti-Klingon, I apologize. And so, but like, in that way, you go, like, oh, it takes a lot more to, like, sympathize with them. And it helped in season 2 when they added hair. Like, but like, just the further you
so
get,
you can only sympathize with things that look like humans, Paul. Is that what you're saying?
I think that is a fair place to be as a human. Like, I'll go further. I tend to sympathize with mammals.
Space whales. So
Space whales.
I would say this. We all probably watch a lot of sci-fi. And I think and I think the thing about sci-fi is, if you're gonna have a show where people come in contact with aliens, then how you create, visualize, dress those aliens becomes a pretty significant part of your show. And I think there's shows like Farscape and Babylon 5 that work really, really hard that just was just okay. When I think
I'll punch you for Babylon 5 is a treasure, but like we can move on, Clyde.
I'm not saying it's not a treasure, but what I'm saying is when you think about what the Star Trek team did with Klingons, they created an alien that feels fairly universally recognizable.
Sure.
So much so that there are people who go around learning the Klingon language. Like they created a character that has so much like mythos behind him that it's huge. And when you think about Worf, who has become this iconic character, it's and then you kind of just toss that away. It did make sense to start over to me.
Yeah.
Right. Not completely. So that like it didn't bother me. I didn't have a problem with it, but I was constantly looking for, show me how this leads to Worf. Right. Show me how we get there. And they never did.
I get it. Go ahead, Paul.
As far as your first question, when you go like, should they have just starred in the future? I think the answer is no.
Okay.
I also don't think that show would ever have gotten made. I think it's an easier pitch to a network to say, hey, this very successful franchise with characters that people already find recognizable and know and love. We're going to start just before that, but still within a time frame where all of these characters can exist. Because no one will buy anything that is not already established IP.
I agree with you.
For me,
go ahead, Paul.
For me, like the reason why the future Star Trek, like at least this far, the difference between going 80 years into the future and 1,000 years in the future, right? And I feel like the reason why this it didn't need to stay in, it could have started in Next Generation or around there and gone in the future, but you needed a touchstone to go like, oh, here is the universe. So when they go to the future, they can also be discovering the universe. But if you start in, in basically Mad Max Star Trek times and just here's Star Trek, but we're in Mad Max Star Trek now. Like it's a lot for someone to go. This is, if you thought Discovery wasn't your Star Trek, like that would definitely be your Star Trek.
I think also if the plan was like, we're going to jump to a future where the Federation has crumbled, you have to establish what the Federation was and why this crew loves the Federation. And so I think if you're thinking about your long-term arc of the show, it ultimately was smart to start in a place of familiarity to a fan base.
Like I don't believe they knew what they're doing. What they're going to do to it until
it switched showrunners a gazillion times, so
I think it was a very slick move to jump to the future, to have someone go like, oh, you know what, we're going to hit problems soon, let's just not have these problems. But I think like the show doesn't get made, like I've always had a problem with the Spore Drive, because despite the fact that it's integral to Star Trek, it's like the phasing cloak or any number of like super technologies that would just radically and then disappear. So it's so radical, like like, hey, how about we just teleport anywhere in the galaxy? Like that is like Janeway would have wanted that.
Everybody would have wanted that. Like it's ultimately the ultimate weapon.
Sure. No, I think the ultimate weapon is friendship and love. But don't worry about it, Clyde. We know how you feel. No,
I agree with everything that you guys are saying except for the friendship and love thing.
Slowly die.
No, but like it did make sense to me. I felt like early on, it felt like they were rapidly painting themselves into a corner. Like it just felt like, oh, like we're this whole this Discovery 10 years before the Enterprise just felt like, man, we're really painting ourselves in a corner. And I don't believe that they knew what they were going to do. And I do believe that it was brilliant to say, hey, we're going to jump them 1,000 years in the future. But I also agree with everything you're saying in the fact that like that touchstone, it would have been really cool if that was somebody's original vision. like all together.
Yeah, and who knows?
Amazing.
Like, I would be very interested in like the oral history of like the creation of the original season and like what those plans initially were. And I'm sure like in like a decade we'll maybe find pieces of that out in interviews and whatnot. But it would be very interesting to know for sure.
Oh, you know my honorable mention, and this is Haterade. You ready? Ready? The death of Locke.
I'm not even gonna address that. You know what thing we did not mention, which I think is really important, but not for discovery reasons? The introduction of Pike gave us a whole new show.
Yeah. 100%.
A show I really like too.
Yeah, me too.
I did have on my honorable mentions the introduction of Number One coming in and getting a burger with habanero sauce on it, and just
that
like
was a really good moment. That was
a great moment.
Kind of fire, yeah.
But seriously, like Locke dying was very important to me because
I'm glad you got that moment, Paul.
Because
you hated him.
I hated them, but here, like throughout the whole season, they were just doing crazy things, and they were just immune. Exactly, that's exactly what it is. And here it goes. Hey, don't OD on that. Oh, you OD on that. You know what's going to do? You're going to die. And it's like, yes, finally, consequences catch up to these guys.
I will say,
die slowly.
But here's the thing. I will say this. I won't say that Locke dying was a favorite moment, but Locke not coming back to life was a favorite moment. And that
that might even be harsher. like
no, because to me, having a weapon like this technology that can bring people back to life, that's just too easy. It feels like a little bit of a trope.
We've all seen Practical Magic and what happens when you try to revive your ex-boyfriends.
That's right.
I mean, it like
Nicole Kidman, not the best witch.
Not the best
witch.
But
the idea that like they're gonna like Maul is just searching because she's so insistent that this is what it's going to do, that they think this is what's going to happen, and you get there and find out no, it doesn't work like that. Technology doesn't do that.
No,
that to me was great. Like that was like, no, you can't shortcut it. And we talk about like, what does that mean for today's day and age? It means there are no shortcuts to dealing with your grief. Like you got to deal with that. Like you have to open up, like Maul, you have to deal with it. You can't just you can't skip it.
Like I think here's a real honorable mention, because it's part of the series, but not part. It's on our podcast. The best moment of like it is when Clyde goes like, at the season finale, Paul, I was like, yeah, can't you just die already, Maul? last episode when you said that, like, I don't know, I know Paul, like, but like when I was watching like her like fight, like, just die already. I was like, there
vindication.
There was yes, you're right, Paul. There was a moment where I was like, okay, this has gone too far. Like, I'm tired of this.
The most beautiful line in the world to me.
So what you're saying is I should have just kept that in my head. I should have thought it, not said it out loud.
Like people love
that was your terra firma, Clyde.
Like people love hearing things like "I love you" or "you mean everything to me." My favorite line is "You're right, Paul." It works great in any language. In any language, "You're right, Paul." Oh my god, it just speaks to something inside me that says like, "I know."
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things where I think sometimes fight scenes go on too long.
Oh yeah, sure. I can.
You're like, okay, yes.
Unless it is a John Wick movie, because then it's the whole movie, really.
That's right.
I mean, it's the whole movie. It is the whole movie. Don't get me started on the stair scenes in John Wick 4.
I love it. What did y'all, so shifting and kind of wrapping up, we have gotten a couple of casting announcements for Academy.
Oh, have we?
They've announced Paul Giamatti as our main villain.
Oh, did they? Oh, that's I'm the biggest Paul Giamatti fan.
Same.
And Holly Hunter is playing the head of the Academy.
Oh, Holly Hunter's in it too. Oh, this is some prime. This is prime casting.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's gonna be. I'm excited. I feel like those 2 leaks gave me a really big jolt of excitement. Yeah.
I love Sarah Paulson doing a Holly Hunter impersonation.
I'm gonna have to look up that video because that does sound fun.
She does it in the single season of Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. She does it quite a bit in there. Like that was in a Saturday night live as show. One of her voices was Holly Hunter. I think it's in the pilot where she does it a bunch, but
love it.
She does a pretty good Holly Hunter.
That's life.
That's life. And that's the end of our episode. Yeah. Okay. We counted down some of our favorite moments. I'm sure we'll come back and talk more disco at some point. This is not the end of our conversations around Discovery. Do not fear. We are preparing for Prodigy. We will be back next week with something. We'll figure out something to talk about. Maybe we'll recap season 1 of Prodigy. That might be something we could do. And chit chat about that. But you let us know. What do you want us to talk about next week? we'll do it because we are for once between seasons of Trek. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple and find more links at StarTrekPod.co as well as links to the Patreon. It's a great time to join because only a few episodes a month right now for just $2 an app. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We will be back next week. Live long and prosper, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you next week, Bobcat.